Hello and welcome to today's video. I wanted to say a quick apology for not being like consistent on my channel at all lately. We've been a lot busier than I even anticipated, but today's video is going to be a quick look through the items of makeup that I have in my storage here at home. So I hope you enjoy it, and let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, let's go ahead and get started going through this box of goodies. I actually had two of these storage boxes that came in a 2-pack last year from Walmart. And what I did to make this an easier process to film, I went ahead and took all the makeup out of the storage boxes and just tried to put them into one box. So we have a little bit of overflow, but this should make it easier to look at and see all in one video go. So here we go. Let's start out with these big palettes that don't fit into the box right now. The first one is my Pirates of the Caribbean Lorac eyeshadow palette, and I do miss the cool tones in this. I know that there have been moments this past like 6 months that I've really missed some of these like green shades, and also this gold and this blue I think are really pretty and really fun. And then I also think that it's just got a couple staple like transition shades that I really like. So that one is nice to, I'm excited to use this at least hopefully once while I'm home. I wish I could use it more, but we're only here for a month, so. Okay, next up is my Morphe 3502 palette. Oh boy, I love this palette. I love these red shades, and these, I love pretty much this whole second row, and then a couple of the shades in this top row are so gorgeous. I bought the ColourPop, the red monochromatic palette, thinking that it might satisfy my red eyeshadow urge, and I still find myself missing those red eyeshadows so much. Okay, the next palette is my Morphe 35M Boss Mood palette, I think. Let me get this open. This is definitely one I also miss. I miss a lot of these greens. Although I do find myself a little frustrated at times with the quality of this palette, I do love these colors. And eventually one day I'd like to find like better quality, like grungy greens like this to replace this palette, just because again that quality is missing somewhat with some of the, especially some of the shimmers. The mattes can be built up with enough work, like it's fine, but I do like that juicy olive palette that I really am interested in that. So maybe one day I might replace this palette with something like that. But for now, I just saying hello to these beautiful green shades. And the last palette up here on top is my Jaclyn Hill palette. And this is one that honestly, I don't find myself missing as much as I thought I would. I think it's a solid palette, especially if you're someone who really enjoys neutral looks. Obviously, there's so many warm neutrals in this palette, but I don't really miss it. I have these colors so much in other palettes, but at the same time, this was the first round. I got this like on release day, and I know the quality's so good, so even though I probably could declutter something like this, I also just find myself wanting to hold on to it too. Okay, let's go ahead and get into this actual storage container. I guess first off the bat, we can pull off a bunch of lashes that I just didn't pack because I know I go through lashes pretty slowly. So I have this faux mink lookbook. I actually really like this lookbook. I bought the faux mink and the non-faux mink, and I kept the non-faux mink with me because I don't like them as much, and I figured I could just try to use those up this year. But these are things that I think in the future when I went through a booklet like this, I would replace it because I just think they're really fun to have so many nice, and these lashes are really good quality too. So these are a lot of fun. Okay, next up I have another little magnetic lash book kind of thing. I bought a bunch of these at one point thinking I could cut them up and like make them work, and I still want to try it, but I never got around to doing it, like go me. But maybe one day I will eventually try to cut these up and make these work. Okay, and I also have a lot of Lily lashes over here. These are shades or styles that I didn't want to run through too quickly. So I have a Miami, I have Havana. I have used a pair of Havanas before that I really liked. This is London. I have used London too. I really like that. And this is Mykonos. Oh, they're so big and pretty. These are like special event kind of lashes to me. And the last pair of lashes that I see on top are these like Scarlet. These are Huda Beauty lashes that came in like a Sephora favorites kit. Okay, so let's try to go through this as quickly as possible because I don't want this video to be too long, because obviously you can see this is very full. But I'll go through a couple of the mascara products that I see on top that I haven't opened yet. So I have a L'Oreal Lash Paradise, CoverGirl, a little Clinique sample, I probably actually might bring these back to Sweden with me because I am kind of blowing through mascara a lot quicker than I thought I would this year. Oh, and I missed this little guy here. This is the Volume Stylist Lash Extension Mascara from Essence. I remember using a tube of this up and I thought that the formula was a little too dry, so I might see if my mom wants it, and if she doesn't want it, then I might end up taking it back. But I went through this really quickly because the formula is so dry. Okay, next up I see a couple of brow products that I'll throw out. I mostly left a bunch of powder brow products because I know that these things are less likely to go bad or dry up because they're powder. Powders tend to last a little bit better. So this is a NYX Eyebrow Cake Powder. Then we have the Benefit Foolproof Brow Powder. I have not yet tried this yet. It looks great though. I love brow powders. I bought I have too many brow products is the problem. And then I have this e.l.f. eyebrow kit. And honestly, I didn't love this shade on me. Like, I found that this wax is sticky, but I do kind of find myself missing the powder for contouring. So I actually might slip this back into my bag and try to finish it. And if I finish that powder side, then I will kind of just put this in my empties for the year. So the rest of this should be pretty fun too. So let's just kind of pull willy-nilly. This is a Wet n Wild Boozy Brunch Highlighter. This is pretty old school. I really like this as a body highlight, honestly. Like, I take a big brush or a big sponge and I apply it when I was on vacation, but because I don't go out in the sun that often in Sweden, I kind of left it here. And who knew that 2020 would be such the craziness that it is, and that we're not really traveling anyways. So it was probably a good decision to leave this behind. So the next one here is I got a little Hoola Benefit mini sample. I have another deluxe size sample that I'm still trying to use up that I haven't not even hit pan on yet. So this thing takes forever to go through. So I have one of those, and then I have a couple of loose eyeshadows here. This is the Wet n Wild Brulee eyeshadow. Just a nice matte cream setting shade that I could see myself using up one day. This is Amber Rush from L'Oreal. This is super old. Or not old to me, but this has been around on YouTube for a while. And I have this guy here. It's a beautiful rose gold kind of shade, but again, I have lots of that in palettes, so I decided to leave it behind. Then I have Urban Decay's Midnight Cowboy, super glittery shade. I kind of like it. Although I don't find myself wearing these kinds of tones often, I do think they're very pretty. Okay, let's grab these two eyeshadow palettes up here. Oh, three eyeshadow palettes up here. I have this NYX little guy here. I might see if my mother-in-law is interested in this because she mentioned that she didn't have any eyeshadow the other day, and these are super easy to work with, so I'll see if she's interested in this. Okay, I hope the angle didn't change too much. I had to change my memory card. But next up, I have my Natural Eyes palette from Too Faced. I kept the Natural Matte palette with me in Sweden because it's a little bit more versatile in terms of offering warm and cool tones. This is more cool tone like palette to me, so but it is fun to have. This is such a good travel palette, and again, who knew I'd be right in assuming that I might not do that much traveling in 2020, because so far the only traveling I've done is to come home to see family. But yeah, the next one is my Gigi Hadid palette, another nice little Maybelline palette that I really enjoy the mattes in this palette, so this one is fun to see. Okay, I think I'm gonna start back here in the back grabbing some face stuff. Oh, I have missed these products so much. These Lara Geller blushes are my absolute favorite formula, and this one is gorgeous. This is Peach Delight. Yes, Peach Delight. And then I also have Roseberry here, which is more like cool tone. Gorgeous. I love that like natural kind of sheen that it gives to your skin, so definitely miss these a ton. A couple more blushes. I have this Havana from Benefit, and Havana, I actually don't know how you say it. Nice, also kind of cool tone, neutral pink leaning blush. And this is a NYX Baked Blush in Wanderlust. I definitely miss this. I worked on this a good bit. I don't know if you can tell, but at one point I had worked on this quite a bit and tried to wear down the dome. And you can kind of see I did that over here, but it is a lot of work to pan baked blushes. So this is my NYX Wanderlust blush. Okay, let's go ahead and pull out some foundation products. So I have this guy here. This is my Pretty Fresh Tinted Moisturizer from ColourPop. I only used this a couple times, and I did use it once since I've been home. I definitely miss being able to wear those lighter coverage foundations. I might take that back with me. Another one that I also really miss, that light coverage. It's so nice. This is the Hydro Boost from Neutrogena. And then I have this one that I like to mix with the Hydro Boost is the Revlon, the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define Foundation. Such a good one. I also have this Milani Conceal and Perfect. This is a little dark for me, but it is such a full coverage foundation that I just can't let myself let it go yet. I have one primer here. This is a mattifying gel primer from First Aid Beauty. Let's see if I can get it to focus. Yeah, this is something that I definitely use more here than in Sweden. In Sweden, the air is way less humid, and I don't struggle with being oily at all. Since I've been home, even for like a little over a week now, or almost 2 weeks, I'm so much more oily just being at home. It's crazy. And this next one here is Stila Stay All Day Foundation. I like the packaging of this. I think it's kind of fun to like push the pump like that. But yeah, I haven't really used this a ton. Obviously, that's why I left it home, because it was pretty much new when I got it. Another one that's still in the box because it's new is this Laura Mercier Flawless Fusion Ultra Longwear Foundation that I got at TJ Maxx for $12.99, and I don't even think I've used this yet. I'm really excited though. I also am kind of tempted to bring this one back to Sweden just because I haven't used it, and I also think that when I finally finish my Tarte Hybrid Gel Foundation, that this might be a good filming foundation to replace that Tarte one with. Okay, next up I have the Stila little illuminating liquid foundation. It's very glowy, very dewy, and I often use this as a mix-in because it is so dewy, but I'm not really mixing a lot of the foundations that I kept in Sweden, so that's part of why this one stayed behind, as well as this guy here. This hasn't been opened. This is my backup of the Healthy Elixir foundation. When I found out CoverGirl was discontinuing it, I cried, I wept, I searched, and I found this guy. So this one will stay behind, and one day I'll use it up and then be very sad that I can't replace it at all. And we have another little primer here. This is the Revlon Photo Ready primer. It's a pore kind of minimizing primer, and I really enjoy this. I actually tried to find this the other day for my mother-in-law who was needing a like pore minimizing primer, and I couldn't find it in Target. So I don't know if they got rid of this too. If they did, that makes me sad, but I definitely haven't used much of this, only like maybe a handful of times, but this is such a large bottle that I decided to leave it behind too. Okay, over here we have this Becca Illuminating Skin Perfector liquid, and this is in Moonstone. This was pretty new, which is why I left it behind, and I also have so many other liquid highlights that need to be used up, but I do kind of miss this beautiful like gold tone. Alright, let's grab a couple of these products that's fallen in the front. This is my Essence Pure Nude highlight. Everybody's seen it. I also have, oh, another, it was an eyeshadow that I used it as a highlight to be able to hit pan on it, because honestly it's very more of a satin. This is Golden Peach from NYX. So yeah, this one here. Then I have my backup of my Laura Geller Diamond Dust highlight. Love this highlight. It's my favorite, I think, in my whole collection. Then I have two more Becca minis. This is Champagne Pop, and this is Opal here. Looks like we have a little mini eyeshadow palette here on top. This is like a taupe. This is Taupe Craze from Lancome, like a little mini of it, and I really enjoy those cool tones, but as you can see, I hit pan. This shade here I don't really enjoy, but everything else I really like. Okay, I think we're making good progress here. I got two face powders. One is my Coty Airspun loose face powder. Missed that, love that. I've used up a whole one of those in the past. And then I have another, like the Wet n Wild. This is Reserve Your Cabana, and this was what people were talking about. It's kind of similar, like a dupe to the Hourglass powders. I have only used this a handful of times, so I can't really vouch, and I've never used the Hourglass powders, but I do eventually want to get back to using this one day. But it's so large. Both of these are so large. That's part of why I left them here at home in storage. Okay, let's keep going. We have a bunch of Wet n Wild products. I have Pearlescent Pink that I've hit pan on. I have Apricot in the Middle that I've hit pan on, in case you want to see those little bitty pans right there. So satisfying. And then I have this highlighter from Wet n Wild and Precious Petals that I've also hit pan on, which is another part of the reason why I left them in storage, because I've gotten a pretty decent amount of use out of them to hit pan on them. Okay, these next products are ones that I really miss. This is my Ofra Pillow Talk highlighter, and oh man, I bought this at Christmas time this past year and just decided to leave it home because it's so large. I miss that so much. I think it's so gorgeous. And then I have a Laura Mercier in Devotion, kind of similar, but it has a little bit more maybe sparkle to it than Pillow Talk does. Pillow Talk's probably a little bit smoother, but oh man, I miss these so much. I found both this one and the next Laura Mercier one I'm going to talk about at TJ Maxx. Hope you can see that right there. So pretty, like nice light pink kind of thing. Actually, let's swatch Pillow Talk beside it and just see how they compare. Yeah, if you can tell, maybe you can't really. The Devotion one from Laura Mercier has a little bit more pink to it, and then the Ofra Pillow Talk is a little bit more icy. And the other Laura Mercier one that I found at TJ Maxx is this Highlight 01. This is pretty popular from her, and I think it's so gorgeous. It's more of a champagne kind of tone, more natural looking, but I think this is a prettier shade and a prettier sheen than the Essence Pure Nude Highlight, although I find that they're pretty comparable. So just for reference, this is the Laura Mercier one, and this is Essence Pure Nude. So you can see the Essence one is just slightly darker and probably a little less shiny because it is a little bit darker. Okay, the next one here is my Too Faced Chocolate Bronzer, Chocolate Soleil Bronzer. I love this guy. It is so hard to open, but I think this bronzer shade is just so flattering, especially on my skin tone. It really works as both a contour and a bronzer, and I like that. A little less work for me is a good thing. Then I have two other highlights here. This is the Maybelline Puma collaboration. Such a beautiful like pinky rose gold kind of shade. Definitely miss that. And then this is my Anastasia Amrezy highlight, and I do miss this one too, but I have a similar shade in my Sugar Glow Kit from Anastasia that I decided to try to work on instead of bringing this back to Sweden with me. Okay, I think the last bit of this is mostly face palettes and eyeshadow palettes, and I think I'm gonna work back to the eyeshadow palettes and end on something interesting. The first one here is a BH Cosmetics Glamorous Blush Palette, and this one is very brightly colored. I kind of know eventually I should let this go. This is just not that wearable to me. I was very attracted to this half of the palette over here, but it is so pigmented, and I've just learned that my preference is for things that are a little less pigmented than this, but I can't seem to let myself let it go yet. But it is one that does not get much use in my collection. Obviously, it's left here for a reason. Okay, next up I have my Anastasia Dream Glow Kit that I found at TJ Maxx. I love this. I love duochrome highlights. Miss this so much, but I do have the Aurora Glow Kit with me, and it's very similar. This one's probably a little bit more glittery and a little bit more like pinky duochromes. A lot of these lean very pinky, even though they look like yellow and green and purple in the pan, they still lean very pink on my skin tone. And then we have a face palette from Becca here. This is the Après Ski palette. I got this at Christmas time last year, and for that reason I was like, it's new, I need to leave it behind, work on some other things. Look, you can see I'm looking like a hot mess. I went on a hot walk. This has Rose Quartz Icicle Winterberry, Blush Copper, Opal, and Bronze Bonsai, and I was actually really surprised that all of these shades can work on me, so this was a really nice fun find at, I believe, Marshall's for me last Christmas time. The next here is my Shade and Light Contour Palette, Bronzer and Contour Palette, and this one is one that's very pigmented, and also I haven't made a lot of progress in, so I decided I would keep ones in Sweden that I could try to use up, versus this one I know I wouldn't have been able to use up in Sweden. Next up is a little bronzer kind of contour kit from Butter London. It has like a contour shade, bronzer, and the like sheen bronzer kind of thing, a bronzer topper, and it comes with like a little highlight too. But yeah, this one also, again, same reason as the Shade and Light palette. Newer, I wouldn't be able to finish it more than likely, so I decided to leave it behind. And then this here is my Tarte Blush Bazaar, and this one was one that I worked on all last year in my year-long project pan to kind of wear off as much of the tree patterns as I could. And it looks nice and worn and used and abused, and for that reason I decided to leave it here. Although I definitely miss a lot of these shades. I love these kind of like warm orange brown shades, and then there's like a really nice mauve over here that I really miss. Oh, beautiful, beautiful palette. These next two are also little bitty palette. This one is a Laura Geller one that I found at Christmas time, and again, for that reason, it being mostly new, I decided to leave it behind. And then this one, I really am surprised that I left here, but again, I think it was because this highlight is mostly what I end up picking up this palette for, and I have a very similar shade in my Sugar Glow Kit, but I do miss this palette quite a bit. I love the Ophir highlight formula, and also the blush and bronzer in this palette work pretty well for me. Okay, this guy here was an Ulta holographic eye and cheek palette, and this one is mostly like an inner corner highlight palette for me, and probably I would have taken it to Sweden had I had more room in a Z palette, but I didn't. But I would probably in the future pop these out and put them in a Z palette, just because I don't find myself thinking to reach for this a lot. But if I had them in a Z palette with some other shades that I might reach for, I probably would remember it a little bit more often. But it is a nice, it's a little chunky, a little bit more powdery than maybe like the Kat Von D versions are, but they're really not bad. Then I have a couple little palettes here. This one is the birthday gift a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago. No, it can't be 2 or 3 years ago from Ulta. And this is what it looks like, some more warm neutrals. Then I have a couple of Makeup Revolution palettes. This one I also might see if my sister-in-law is interested in, just because I know that I don't reach for it anymore. I have some better peachy pink red shades in other palettes in this, and I really don't like the shimmer formula in this palette, so I think I might declutter this one while I'm home to someone if they're interested. But I do like this matte palette here from Makeup Revolution is a Shade and Light eyeshadow palette dupe, and this one's pretty nice, so I definitely want to keep this one. Next up is my Violet Voss little palette here, the rainbow palette. I definitely miss this. This is such a fun way to introduce a pop of color into your look, but it is a little bit large for the amount of times that I would use it, which would probably be about once every 2 months, maybe once a month if I'm lucky. So this is one that I sadly am leaving here, even though I definitely missed this one. This next guy here is one that I do not really love. I need to declutter it one day, but part of me thinks that I want to keep and try to pan some of these matte shades, because the matte shades aren't bad. I don't like these shimmers at all, and they're actually pretty soft, and I think I could hit pan on them pretty quickly. So for whatever reason, every time I talk myself into decluttering this palette, I talk myself right back out of it. So for now, this will stay here. Okay, and I have to be careful. This is my Z palette that I sadly ruined. This is, I got too lazy and never put like glue or glued magnets to any of these, but this is a over highlight, some old random like things from like a $5 palette back here. This is an Anastasia shadow, I don't even remember, in like pale gold, and then I have some NYX shadows that came in like an advent box, and I like the shades of them, even though I do kind of have a hard time remembering that I have them. Next up, I have my large Take Me Back to Brazil colorful palette, and I opted to take my little NYX guy instead because it's way more portable than this guy, but I do kind of miss them, and I don't think the quality on this is that great. I was a little underwhelmed by the quality, but at the same time, I do kind of miss having the variety that this offers. And last up, I have 4 more palettes left. I have 3 Lorac palettes. I have this one here is the Shine Bright palette. Yeah, Shine Bright palette from Lorac. This was a holiday release maybe 2 years ago. I like the quality of Lorac palettes, but I found that this color story was a little bit underwhelming. Next up, I have my Lorac Mega Pro 2 palette. I really enjoy this palette. I like the entire first row. I think offers so much in terms of both transition shades and deepening shades. And then most of these like shimmers down here, I love. I'm not crazy about like the 4 on the end, but the rest of them are stunning. I really like the Lorac formula. They're very soft and a little bit, not so much high impact. Like Anastasia shimmers are chunky and high impact, and these aren't necessarily as high impact, but they do look really pretty on my eyelids. Then I have the first one I ever bought, which is my Mega Pro 4, and I love the cool tones in this. I definitely missed this at winter time this past year. I would have had a lot of fun with mostly like these 3 here, and the steel wool, so pretty. I also kind of find myself constantly missing this denim shade. Such a gorgeous shade. I love that one. And last up, I have my ColourPop My Little Pony palette, and I do miss this palette quite a bit. The only reason why I left it at home is that I have Super Shock shadows that are very similar that I was trying to use up some of these. So I'm still gonna leave it behind, even though I do highly miss this palette. It's such a fun little colorful palette, but yeah. Okay, so that was everything. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you say hello in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.